with these people, okay, I have been able to thwart the coup, which was hell bent on a balls out physical civil war, a false civil war again, because when you get someone in a Talmud, just as in the Bible, when you put the people in a rebellion, you can seize the estate in controversy, i.e., the kingdom of heaven, and put it into a sustake trust of the land, i.e., the field of blood. So the habit has been of the enemies of all the people who love land and law, who is this hidden principalities on high, their habits since Christ have always been to get the people so twisted in the word and the law and the history, such as in creating fascism, Bolshevism, and all these movements where people are blindly led to believe one thing, though they're affecting another, okay, by propaganda and basic fascist methodologies, to get the people to rebel against their own government so that they, as the lex mercatoria holders of the realm, could seize you up and put your land into a trust. I have prevented them from doing that. Not only have I prevented them from doing that, I have taken that civil war that they had planned to be bloody and dirty and bring up through Mexico when Hillary was selected, and allow all the troops of China and Russia and the masses and mobs of people that were waiting at the borders that Hillary was going to let in. Hillary was going to walk in, folks, including China and Russia. And they were going to let them come invade this country and declare it a Moorish nation. I swear, this is actually a provable fact, that this was their plan, that they were going to institute this entire shift of our faith. Because remember, our Constitution is based on full faith and credit. So they not only had to undermine the banks, they had to make you all turn away from the faith that credit was issued on, which is the Christian faith, not the Catholic faith, not the Jewish faith, not any other of the Abrahamic faiths, Christian faith. So they had to, their whole plan would have required for them to not only undermine our banks by coming in criminally through criminal bankruptcies, fraudulent bankruptcies imposed upon us since the Civil War, and seizing our land through false bankruptcy seizures under trusteeship. They would have had to do that. And then their coup de grace was they thought they were going to shove the Sharia law down American Christians' mouths to make us change our faith, because they had to change the faith in order to get to the credit, if that makes sense to anybody. So they literally were going to attack our faith, which is what you saw a lot of that, attacking Christianity, white Christians. They're a broad color of Christians. So.
Let's make a couple of points here. So it should be lost on nobody that it's not just on the face of it an assault, but there's a spiritual component to this whole thing. As we pointed out in many episodes, the basis of law and everything else, but the way it's being laid down here, it's more than just a war. It's a spiritual war, but there's more. If people, I hope I get this right, Lotus, you can correct me if I don't, but if you want to think about the entities, you could almost think about the City of London, it's the banking center. You could throw in the Vatican with whatever anyone's doing. But basically each person became equity or is equity, but they've been denied. Is it called the beneficiary? You can correct me in a minute. Been denied being the beneficiaries of their own equity. So that's basically in a nutshell, right?
Correct. And they've done that by removing us. They literally removed they threw what's called the American Republics, which was brought into the United States statutes under Title 22, which they just did not renew, the Foreign Servants Act, or it's what controls everything as a foreign agent, let's put it that way. So under Title 22, they notice you to the only time you'll ever see the term America, and it's called the American Republics, okay? They threw the American Republics into a treaty which is called the Havana Acts, with 19 other republics. So what you don't understand about that mention in statute is that the term America had presented into the SEC. The United States of America was seized in receivership in 1939 doing business as the Atlas Corporation. So
Atlas Shrugged.
When I read the Havana Acts is how did the United States of America report in a treaty which Cordell Hull created. And mind you, Cordell Hull was one of the founding members of the United Nations. Which then brought about the Council of 300, and that's when you get into the hidden philosopher kings of Greece. So think of the Council of 300 as the hidden philosophers of the old Greeks, the Greek kings. They're called the hidden philosopher kings under the Greek eschatology, renaming themselves as the Council of 300. So imagine that. He's the king that's bringing the seed, the collective of the seed, to the true God, not the false crown, not the false temple, the true temple. He's a true King David. Let's pray that he's that, and also pray for him to have protection to rout out the coup within the old Hessians of the Roman Empire that are still hiding in there, the old baby traffickers that are hiding in the military and who have couped this nation and allowed since 1940 for these heinous crimes to be effected against it, actually before then. So let's pray that the true sons of Zion, come out of that cooing instrument, which is the military, and come to the aid of Trump, embodying, operating within the Ka of King David to bring the Zionists out and to put the whore down, because that's actually exactly where we are in the eschatology of this march to our divine manifest destiny, because I've seized all the patents. I've seized everything else.
Let's make a couple points here. For people who are not putting one and one together, the corona nonsense, aptly named after the crown, what's being described here is the claim being made is that's why it happened. But I've got to ask, so who's in charge of the military, and why would we have any reason to believe that the military is going to do the right thing all of a sudden after all these decades and decades and decades of turning a blind eye, or even worse?
Well, because what's been exposed is something that's right before you that never should have happened. Okay, and in that, let's go to the crux of every crime. Title 28, U.S. Code, Section 1338. Okay, that particular code states that, and I'll read it just so we have it. It says patents, plants, variety protection, copyrights, mass works, designs, trademarks, and unfair competition. Okay, let's go to B. Okay, well, let's just read. The district court shall have original jurisdiction in any civil action arising under any act of Congress related to patents. Let's just read A. Okay.
Federal District Court. There's one in Eugene.
Title that is operating in the Treasury this day in this country is a patented piece of land subject to an act of Congress. Every one of them. So how is it that you get kicked out by a municipal court? They don't have jurisdiction. It says right here, the district courts shall have original jurisdiction in any civil action arising under an act of Congress relating to patents. We can go on. Patent, variety, protection, copyrights, trademarks. Okay. Then it goes on B. The district court shall have original jurisdiction in any civil action asserting a claim of unfair competition. So everything related to foreclosures, the states have no jurisdiction in them, because every foreclosure is concerning a patented piece of land that is subject to an act of Congress.
So's your car title.
And the bankruptcy
So's
act
your
that go all the
children's
way back
birth certificate.
Before the Civil War. Before the Civil War, they enacted the first Bankruptcy Act, which is what started, which was actually the reason for the Civil War. But that's another time. But so if everything related to patented lands or anything of a patent that is subject to an act of Congress is not within the jurisdiction of the states, then how, since the entire time I can remember, have the states been leaning patented lands, kicking tenants out by forced eviction from landlords who aren't the true allodial holders? They're just holding the tenancy deed through the Fed Act. So the fact is now is that not only that, but I have proven by the manner in which they stole my birth certificate and stole a very important instrument called a les pendens, which is where you lay a claim in equity against a non-negotiable instrument, such as a land patent. In the Federal Court of Equity, the Federal Circuit, the highest equity court in the District of Columbia, I laid a les pendens on that clerkship, leaning all of my family's Social Security numbers and attached to their birth certificate. So I joined the birth certificate and the social security numbers at the top in a lien. When I did that in negotiable instrument law, it made them non-negotiable patented bonded patents. Okay. So I have proven that the birth certificate is basically a land patent, where your state of issued a land patent, in my example, would be for a piece of Missouri walking called Monica G. Justice. It's a land patent. So your birth certificate is a patent, okay? Again, subject to the Fed Act. So if your birth certificate is an instrument of patent and your house title is an instrument of patent, and all the cars that come out of Michigan were required, if those corporate manufacturers were made to surrender the allodial titles to those cars produced in Michigan, to which then they issued patents from the federal. These are all issued through patent. Even your car title is a federal patent, which is subject to an act of Congress.
And yet
So
the local police and
are
towing
patents
companies
subject to
seize
acts
them
of
all the
Congress.
time?
How?
I don't
Have
think so,
foreign
people. What
bankers
more do you need to
posing
know?
as esquires, as judges, been able to lay claim to them in what we see as state and municipal courts? It's because they never were state and municipal courts.
Ha
They're
ha
just
ha.
slave banks that have worked their way in from the edges of Jamestown all the way into your counties. And that's where we're at. So now that the military that are good and the esquires that are good
Ha!
and
Not
the
likely.
cops that are good
Ha!
that now know that these, let's say that these
There
judges
aren't
down here
any.
were trying to solicit them and doing the dirty work for the dirty bar union criminals by hiding things off the
They're coming
docket
for
to
you
get
all.
the cops to come shoot
Court
me,
clerks,
though the docket was adulterated
judges,
in this case,
cops,
and they were being misled
military
and misguided
individuals.
to affect treason, sedition, and domestic terrorism. It's those judges on the hook and those esquire prosecuting attorneys on the hook
Dave
that are ordering
Anderson.
these cops out, folks. The cops are
Who's-
just like the guys on the booths.
Who's going to do the enforcement here? So we've come through all
The
this
military.
time where, yeah, well, that's the point that
I got to add something here. Just this week, I had police called on me, Reedsport PD, and then a sheriff, all to restrict me from Kathleen K, Justice of the Peace, not Judge Miller, restricting me from access to the court. And the police thought, oh, well, we're defending her. No, you're supposed to be defending our rights. That's why there are no good cops, because they're all too stupid to realize what their oath actually states. This is running way too long, guys. We're going to break this up. Things are changing. Love you guys. Look forward to Wednesday night protest potluck every Wednesday night at Lions Park from 6 to 9. Light and love, guys. We're getting our country back.